Congratulations. Please come up to the stage. Join us for a talk. Nigel Stuckey, director. Dr. Sharon Koivu, Laura Lee Collins, and joining us virtually is Mark Sheldon. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to see. And it's an incredible film that you've made. Film number 2. And I know, Nigel, when you were finishing off film number 1, you already had the idea of this film. Can you tell us about the starting points of this film, and then maybe a little bit about the journey of actually creating it? And I'll go to the audience because I know you've undoubtedly got a lot of questions, so I will come to you very soon.
So I ran into, I met Cheryl when I was filming Atrocity, and I was, nobody taught me how to filmmake. I bought a camera, and I wasn't thrilled with the footage, and for whatever reasons, I didn't use it originally. And then, I'd met her a few times, and I heard what happened, and I reached out to Mark and spoke to him, and, through this whole process, I've spoken to Mark and said, listen, there's some tough stuff here. What are your thoughts on this? And, Mark and I have become really good friends, and, he's always been of the mindset that, we can't let this happen to others. When you do a documentary, you do not know where it's ending when you start, the type of documentary I do. And so I never, ever anticipated that I would be looking at winter response. And it wasn't even on my radar. But then I started running into people and filming people, and this has become one of my most important sort of calls is winter response right now, and the lack of. And I just find this to be one of the most concerning issues facing people on the street right now.
Yeah, as we head to that time of year, most certainly, I can see the incredible concern. What also really I felt was really interesting about this film was how it, though it was really about Cheryl, the bigger story here is the way women have a special suffering on the street. And so, Laura Lee, I would love to hear, you are so well-spoken and you're such a good communicator, and I know that you have experienced this yourself. And so what are the solutions? What are the ways forward through this?
I'm sorry, London Police, but if they were more acceptable and open-eyed, I have 14 and 17-year-old little girls that have been through sexual assault, and I talk to them to call the police, and they say no, they do nothing anyway. I am a victim of sexual assault. Thankfully, I had enough evidence, and last year he was convicted of sexual assault. He is no longer allowed in Ontario. All I can say is us women, we look at looking for each other who have been through the same and try and find connection and outlook through there. So with my lived experience, I find I have, since Atrocity has come out, I have a lot of women that just come and talk to me And it's inspired me now to complete my peer support certification through Peer Support Canada.
Oh, well done. Sharon, Dr. Koivu, thank you for being here. Your specialty, of course, is an addiction, and the complexity of a woman's situation out on the street is just astounding. And this film really showed it off, I think, in a clearer way than most people will ever have a chance to see. Do you have any thoughts on, once again, what is the way through this? What is the step forward?
There are so many stories in this one film. The story that, when I first, actually this was my first time to see this film. And as I'm watching it, I'm seeing how many stories we have. The story of femicide and violence, gender-based violence. Every 48 hours in Canada, a woman is murdered. 50% to 2/3 are murdered by a partner. Often it is when people are trying to leave the situation, which essentially is the same here. And I think that I was involved in violence against women as one of the first things I did when I got into medicine, and that was 40 years ago. And I feel like we haven't come very far. When you can elect a president that will grab you by the pussy and that's still okay, when reproductive rights have been taken away, I feel like in so many ways women are now less valued and more vulnerable than I've ever seen. And I think recognizing that we have taken away the value of women is an important part of moving forward, and that we're not recognizing. I think sometimes we think women are more empowered because we can be physicians, but yet I'm seeing so much of a marginalization of women. Then the whole story of homelessness, vulnerability, of being homeless, and how that makes you even more invisible. And then adding that, the complexity of addiction and how vulnerable that makes you, how vulnerable it makes your body as people are appeasement. They do things they have to do to survive, and they're also at risk of violence because of their need to survive. And I think there's so much moving forward that the first thing we need to do is shine a light on it. And that's where I feel this movie is shining a light on it. Although I feel like I said that last time.
But that is the brilliance of documentaries like this, and that's why these are so important. And thank you for continuing to make these, Nigel. It's incredible. Mark, I would just like to talk a little bit to you about how, this is we have another film at the festival interpreting Eric that's really from the family's perspective, dealing with a sibling who is homeless and addicted and ends up also deceased. And it's a special pain. And in retrospect, how I don't even know really how to phrase this question, but what do you sort of look at the situation and wonder what else you might have done?
I always look at that. I wish I could have done more. I live with the guilt of not being there. I'm not realizing that she was at that point in her life. I'm, 8 hours away, but just not that far. I guess for the rest of my life, I'll live with a little bit of regret and guilt.
Well, now you've got this beautiful memento to her, and you see what an impact she has made on the world and will now continue to make on the world, thanks to the work that Nigel has done here. And I think that this is such a common experience, which is why I asked that sort of somewhat heartless question. Because it's a very common feeling, I think, for families who have family members and they don't realize. Because it's that asking for help is a challenge, isn't it? Laura Lee, you can speak to that.
So I was homeless for 5 years, addicted to crystal methamphetamine, injecting 15 times a day, if not more. I'm now 2.5 years clean. I have custody of my 14-year-old biological daughter, but it was not easy whatsoever. My biological father has land up in Sudbury. Nobody kept me. I was in a tent for 5 years until I got my puppy Zero, and that's where my protection came from, was my dog. And I still have her to this day. She is blind from being bit and attacked by other dogs when we were homeless, but she is still available. There's not a lot of things I can say about family help because I didn't have any. I didn't have really community help as well. I did feel safe at the Arc Street Aid mission and a few people from London Cares I spoke to. But other than that, I didn't feel like I was being heard, like I was being able to advocate for myself for all the abuse I went through. I went to police, they did nothing. It took multiple years, like 2 years to convict a guy and left him on the street, and it taunted me. I went to family. They wouldn't help me. They said that it was my choice, that I picked drugs. Well, no, I didn't pick drugs. Drugs picked me because that's what used to make me feel safe. Now I'm still living inside, and the police still have yet to make me feel safe in my own home. My husband was stabbed by a young man on Mother's Day, 1.5 blocks away. That man still lives 1.5 blocks away. I'm sorry.
Did I say something?
Yes,
Sure.
please, Mark.
Yes, to the little lady beside me there, you should be very proud of yourself for being where you are now. And I'm very grateful that you were actually friends with my sister. But Cheryl only picked a few people to be friends with. She could be pretty bitter when she wanted to be, and mean. But, I mean, keep
I
going,
loved her.
keep your chin up. Well, I loved her too. I think it's because we were the middle children, we kind of stuck together,
I'm a middle child as well, so I feel you.
There you go.
Oh,
But
let's
she
go
was
to,
always a sweetheart.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mark.
Mark. And yes,
You take care.
you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Let's go to the audience for questions. Could we turn the lights up just a little bit in the house? Yeah, it's very difficult to see. Any questions out there?
There's one over here.
Yes, please. Nigel, what are you doing next?
Maybe a week ago I thought I knew, and I'm not sure I know right now. I want to obviously stay doing documentaries. I'm not, and I want to stay in the realm of films that have meaning and purpose, but I'm not sure exactly what that story is right now. And I also, I'm also very invested to the art. I watch this film and I see every little error in it, and so I want to get better as a filmmaker and a storyteller, and I want to tell stories that change, like have an impact on the world, and change lives. I'm hope. So stay tuned, I guess, but I'm not exactly sure yet.
Yeah, you've done a very good job with the first two films you've done in having a story that's impacted the world. We are getting close to the end of our time here with our Q&A, but I, absolutely am so impressed with your consistent ability to really ask real questions and get people to be very real on in the filming. Is there something that you do to get people to just ignore that camera and just talk to you?
I have a good friend, Elizabeth Cabral, who is in the audience, who helped with some editing. And I would say to her, I'm new at this. And she says, Nigel, stop saying you're new. You're not new at life. And so, I took that to heart. And, 32 years of policing, I think I became a good communicator. If you see atrocity, you'll see that I'm on the ground with people, talking to people, and I just think it's so important to talk to people where they're at and be honest. And everyone has a story, and people want to be heard. And I just think communicating with passion and integrity, and also it's so important as a filmmaker to take responsibility for your subjects. There's one woman in this film who was a lot of women who were very vulnerable. One in particular who was trying to get into doors. It was minus 15. The lengths I've gone to protect identities. You know, I change voices. I cover. You can't see her shoes. No one will ever be able to say, "Hey, that's so and so," and I need to do that to have integrity as a filmmaker, but also to protect people. So, yeah.
One more question about the art of editing, since you mentioned Elizabeth and editing. Is this film the same film that you thought it would be when you started editing?
No, they never are. You just don't know where, and I do the editing myself. Elizabeth was so kind to come in and help some bit, and other people, of course, assisted. But I've sort of had to learn editing as well. Editing makes you a better film videographer because you get home and you're going, boy, sure would have been nice if somebody had filmed that. Well, that's me. So then next time you go out and shoot, you realize, okay, I need to cover more ground. But you don't know, I mean, I honestly believe in what's known as verite filmmaking. I don't believe in a documentary that's full of, how do I say this? I want to take you as an audience to somewhere where you wouldn't go on your own, and I want that to be the real world. And so I think a commitment to that is important, and I think that type of documentary filmmaking resonates with people, and so you don't know where you're going to end up. You just don't.
The journey's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We do have time for one more question. I see a hand just flew up out there in the pink.
So I'm gonna, sorry to interrupt, thank you, but I gotta be honest with you, I'm really frustrated right now. I'm frustrated with the city. I'm frustrated with their new winter response. So if I could just speak about this really quickly, the city has now approved a new winter response that's tiered. In totality, it's about 200 beds. In the worst case scenario. They have made some steps which are very positive. I applaud that. But let's have an honest conversation. They have, the London Middlesex Health Unit has basically said -5 is you're getting into dangerous territory. We have a threshold of -15. You're asking the wrong person. So it's -15 for their most serious threshold, but the other thing that's missing is there's no provisions for inclement weather. So if we have an ice storm and it's -2, that doesn't trigger that serious response. Or if we have like 20 centimeters of snow, and that's why that one scene in the film where there's a woman in a wheelchair who has a bag leg, it's snowing outside, and I'm in an intersection saying, well, what am I gonna do here? So I call 911. London police were great, and I work there, I know, but I'm just going to be honest. They were great. They showed up, they took her, and they brought her to a shelter. Okay.
So what the normal, regular taxpayer would you say we should do?
Are you offended by this?
Yes.
Then call people. I send every time I do a film, I send it to every politician in the city. Every politician in the city was invited to come to this film.
We have to wrap it up now, but on that note of call your city councilors, call your MPPs, call your member of parliament. There's there's things to do at every level of government.
Come to my meeting next week, which is at Stevenson Hunt. Actually, it's November the 12th, where we will be discussing this.
November 12th.
A grassroots movement to counteract all the problems that city council will not address.
Excellent.
Remember, they just voted themselves a 33% salary increase and increased our property taxes. Clearly, there's a problem with city council. Come to my meeting
November 12th, Stevenson and Hunt right out here.
starts at 6 in the Stevenson Hunt room, and we will be discussing this, and we need to work together as a grassroots movement because city council won't be doing anything to address it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark Sheldon. Mark's become a really
Yeah,
good
not
friend
a
of
problem,
mine.
my friend.
Yeah, just thank you so much. I don't know where he's.
Nice to speak to you, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. And if I ever get to London, I want to make sure I get in contact with everybody that ever helped Cheryl.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
This stone's for high, even if we're just dancing in